Let's talk about it! Hi, I'm Danesha Williams.
And I'm Dr. Eboni Rainey.
And if this is your first time,
welcome.
And if not,
let's talk about it. So let's get into it.
Yeah.
As always.
Beautiful. So, Eboni, question. Can you define a moment where you felt like you were breaking a generational curse?
So I think honestly, going off to college, going into a career, a professional career, was definitely something that was different that I didn't see in some of my family members. I mean, my mom, she was a nurse. She had her own hair salon.
Right.
Many other individuals were in careers. But I think just taking that step to go off to college was breaking generational curses for a lot of the family members in my era.
Yeah, that makes sense. I agree 1,000%. Like, I was the first to actually graduate college in my family. I felt like, yeah, that was really interesting because my mom, she never finished high school or anything like that. And so is my dad. So I feel like coming off the college was definitely like that highlight, like, okay, I'm doing something different.
That's
then
awesome.
Getting a corporate job, at a really young age, working at the bank and, so on and so forth. And being where I am right now, just at 27, like compared to like my other family members. So I'm definitely grateful.
Yes. And I would also say breaking generational curses by taking advantage of many of the opportunities that we have.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, I feel if our grandparents, if our mothers had the opportunity that we have today,
yes,
they would have been maybe further or in a different space, and not saying that everybody in generation wasn't successful or whatever, because my grandmother and my granddad was very successful.
Yeah.
But, it's just some of their friends weren't as successful, or maybe they experienced drug and alcohol abuse. Yep. So seeing that in some of my family dynamic, breaking that generational curse of not being a drug addict or on drinking alcohol consistently, socially. Those are things I think breaking generational curses, because the 70s and some of the 80s were big for drug addicts.
Definitely.
And marijuana, cocaine, all that stuff was big in that era. So, they were exposed to those things, as opposed to we are exposed to therapy. We are exposed to social media on the positive side of things, where we now know how to eat better, understanding different plants, and
YouTube for sure as well.
Yes, YouTube University.
Love that.
And so being exposed to that, we get a better hand. We're playing spades.
We're getting a better hand.
We get a better hand. We get a handful of spades.
Right.
They got like a couple spades, and they had a whole bunch of hearts. They were trying to figure out what's going on. But okay, if you're a spade player, But anywho,
I'm looking like,
on.
What?
We gotta teach Denise how to play spades. But no, so those are things that I think that align with breaking generation curses.
Yeah.
You have to grow as you get exposure to things.
Yes, you hit that on the nail.
Danesha, so as far as breaking generational curses,
right?
Have you had those conversations with any of your family members about how you may have broken generational curses, or what generation curses they may have broken?
That's a great question. I actually have not had that conversation with them, but I did think about this question kind of a little bit more deeper. I want to implement within my family where we talk about finances, we talk about opportunities, and just wealth management and things like that. The conversation that I didn't feel like we had growing up. I feel like because it's so important nowadays, especially to know about financial literacy and things like that. So for me, I haven't had that conversation with them directly, but I plan to put things in place so we can all talk about it.
And I think that's good. And I think coming up with ways for everyone to be receptive.
Yes.
I think that would maybe the challenge, but doing that and getting through that will be the success of breaking those generational curses. And I think that alone, just communicating with their family about finances, about emotion, about maybe even going to therapy as a family, those things that you incorporate to better your family dynamic is breaking generational curses.
That's what I'm saying, because we're all programmed be in the same space as our ancestors at this point.
Exactly, because if you think about it, back in the days, they did not talk about emotion. They didn't talk about finances. It's like, okay, the wife and the husband talked about how the house was going to be ran, and the kids had to stay in a child place.
Of course.
And it was just separated.
Yeah.
So I think that also stopped a lot. It stopped the kids from seeing also maybe how dad and mom truly love
the reality
some households, you know.
Yeah.
So you can break so many generational curses by just looking at change and how you react and respond to certain things, as opposed to how maybe your mom or your dad or sibling or grandparent did.
I agree with you 1,000% on that. So can you share a time where someone transformed their life from like coming from like, let's say, poverty, right, and being able to make it out and actually be somebody? Is that something that you can speak to?
I mean, of course. I mean, just me and my siblings, even my mom, we didn't have the best upbringing.
Yeah.
And it had always, like I said in one of our previous episodes, it always was us.
Right.
I mean, my mom, she, you know, she was in relation and was married at a time, but, you know, it was always just us. And we had a hard life. Overall, but we always had love in each other. And I think that's what helped us get through a lot of those things.
Yeah.
And again, break generational curses, because our mentality, like my mom instilled us so much as far as, you know, understanding, you know, your money and things like that. I mean, we weren't having classes, you know what I mean? But that's a generational curse that I plan on breaking with my kids.
No, definitely.
I'm going to sit them down and talk about finances and credit cards and what having credit means, what not having credit, understanding life insurance. Like, those are the things that I'm going to instill in my child. And I feel as though if my mom had the chance to, she would have.
Definitely.
Because now she always talk about it like, oh, when I have my grandkids, or, you know, because my niece and nephew, she does that with them. But when she have more, she's going to really instill more into them as well. So.
No, that's lovely.
Yeah. And I always talk about like my family dynamic, because we are so close.
Yep.
And because we break generational curses together.
I love that.
Like me and my sisters, we have a whole business together.
Yep. Sassy sister, shout out to y'all.
Yes. So, you know, having that and being in a successful business and running a successful business with my sisters is important to me, because I hear people say all the time, like, I can't work with my family, you know? And so what do you think? What generational curses have you seen your family as a collective kind of grow through?
That's a great question. I would definitely say we saw basically the bottom. We saw what it was like to not have anything, right? And like just looking at my family today, I'm so proud of them, because I see like my aunts, my uncles, my cousins, and my mom and my dad progressing in a big way compared to where they were before. You know what I'm saying? And so even myself, like coming from that and now being in this environment. So I feel like ultimately I just want to be the resource for them. Like anything I learn, I want to pour into them. And then anything they learn, they want to pour into me. So I feel like we're getting to that part now.
That's
but
good.
If it wasn't for us making that, you know, that intentionality, I don't feel like we would have gotten here. Like you said, for example, you said that your mom and your sister and all of you guys are really close knit. So it made it possible for you guys to kind of build that community.
Exactly. And I think now it's time for us to peel back those layers of communication.
Right.
And getting back, because, you know, it's sometimes where you experience things, and I'm a firm believer what goes in the family stays in the family.
Yeah.
So peeling back those layers, I think, is important now. We have a tight-knit family, but you know, there's things that may have happened with one sibling with another, or a mother and son, whatever, that need to be peeled back a little bit and addressed. Of course. And I think having that communication, creating that safe space is what's next in the family dynamic to really break generational curses and grow together as a family.
I love that. And I was going to say, I think that also ties into, because, you know, the Black community. Right. So do you think if we all collectively worked in our own families to build them up, we could make a change in our whole community?
Oh, of course. Of course. I feel like each one teach one.
Yeah.
You know, as you learn something, give back.
Right.
Give back into the community. I mean, we're part of an amazing organization, nonprofit, Hope to Home.
Hope to Home.
Yes, which we are board members.
Community chair.
Yes. And I am the founder, executive director. And so starting that is another generational curse.
Yep.
You know, giving back to the community, because we have for-profits.
Right.
But having a nonprofit where we can give back to the community genuinely out the kindness of our heart is a way that we're breaking generational curses.
Okay, perfect. That was really lovely. So we're going to go ahead and close out. So, of course, if you have any questions about generational curses and how you can break them, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Thank you for tuning in.
And don't forget to subscribe.
Until next time, let's talk about it.
Yes.
Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe.